Well, now that Georgia runoff is over and we know what the Senate's going to look like next year for the next 2 years, a lot of people want the postmortem on the 2022 midterm elections to begin. And they want to reevaluate the leadership in the House with Kevin McCarthy, the Senate with Mitch McConnell, and with the RNC, the chairwoman, Ronna Romney McDaniel. There's been a lot of jockeying and a lot of people saying that it's time to move on. One thing that's certain, if Ronna McDaniel were to win another term of 2 years as chairwoman of the RNC, that would be a record. No one has ever served this long in that capacity. Well, joining us right now is a member of the Republican committee who would like to challenge Ronna McDaniel. She's officially a candidate, and she joins us now from still sunny California out there on the West Coast. She is Harmeet Dhillon. Harmeet Dhillon, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Larry.
There has been overwhelming support, encouragement, endorsements. People have reached out to me, say, yeah, it's got to be Harmeet. It's got to be Harmeet. Are you kind of surprised that so many people have said, thank you for jumping into this race?
Well, first of all, I'm very humbled by all the support. I'm a volunteer at the RNC, and I'm elected by the 5 million or so California Republicans for 2 terms now. And, I think what you're seeing is not just, I love Harmeet, but the need for change at the RNC. And you're right. Normally, nobody cares. In fact, our current chair, Ronna McDaniel, was, basically installed in that position without any opposition 6 years ago. And she has not had a challenger in her 2 successive elections after that. And she didn't have a challenger this time around until I jumped into the race. And I think so far I'm the only challenger who is from the RNC. And I think Mike Lindell is the only other challenger. Lee Zeldin got out of the race today. And so look, people need change. I've heard it from tens of thousands of people over the last week alone. I've heard it from billionaire donors. I've heard it from $5 donors. I've heard it from voters. Outside the building of the RNC and the cozy club that we have, we call it the 168, there's almost no demand for continued leadership there. And that's not a knock on personality or anything. I mean, I think Ronna's a very nice person and well-meaning. She's certainly a conservative, and she's, I think, done her best to lead the party. But there's the appearance and there's the reality. The appearance is that there's no change in a sclerotic organization that's really got some of the same staff, consultants, and methodologies that worked in the 90s and the 2000s. They don't work today. It's 2022. I know what time it is, and it's time to start winning again. And I don't think we can do it with the current team. So that's why I'm willing to step away from my 2 important jobs in a nonprofit and in my law firm and really devote myself in this next cycle to turning the RNC around from a business perspective, from a spending perspective, most importantly, from a leadership perspective, messaging, and helping the candidates who are best suited for their particular districts and states to win. We cannot let the Democrats define our candidates and our messaging, and that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years.
You mentioned the former Congressman Lee Zeldin withdrew his name from contention for the RNC chair. Have you had any communications with him? He did say that Ronna McDaniel should not be reelected, so it sort of is a backdoor endorsement of your candidacy.
Yeah, Lee and I are friends. We've spoken several times during this process. He's been carefully considering and praying with his family about this, like I have. And it was a difficult decision to jump in. I have a lot of people who rely on me. And so we've had a lot of conversations in my law firm and my nonprofit about it as well. And Lee has decided, based on his whip count, he's called people that he can't move them. That's what he said in his statement, that it's pre-baked. I'm not deterred by that. I think the fight itself is worthy. And I think that people can be persuaded. And frankly, a lot of the people that Ronna is counting on her whip list or her whip people are putting out there, they don't support her. And after yesterday, a lot more aren't going to support her. So this is a winnable race. I think that the role of the grassroots here is going to be to contact the 168 members of the RNC. Each state and territory has 3 representatives, national committee man, national committee woman, and state or territory chairman, and tell them that they demand change. It's a secret ballot. The building and the allies there are handing out perks. They're offering to pay legal bills they weren't willing to pay 2 weeks ago. They're offering cash transfers to the states. They're offering contracts. They're offering cozy committee assignments. I can't compete with that. All I can say is that if they want us to be winning and have the best chance to do that, I pledge to do that. I have nothing else to offer but my blood, sweat, and tears.
So Republicans in every state can find out who these committee members are and then reach out to them and tell them, this is what we expect you to do on our behalf. You represent us. This is what you need to do. And they can even say, if you want to keep getting donations from us, that's what has to happen.
Absolutely.
Whenever I ask people, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say in California, I'm one. I'm already going to be supporting myself, not high school election rules. And Jessica Patterson is the chair, and Sean Steele is the national committee man. Jessica and Sean are on record supporting Ronald's reelection, even though a lot of donors and others have reached out to them. So if you're in California, tell them what you think. And then the same is true of all the other states and territories. I think this is a winnable race. That's why I'm in it.
When I ask people why they like you, they immediately say, because she fights. She fights. And you've been able to use your nonprofit and your law firm to fight legally against Gavin Newsom's COVID lockdowns on behalf of churches, on behalf of private schools. When you look at what many people are concerned about with regard to ballot harvesting and the local election rules in certain states, how would you apply your knowledge of the law to your new role as chairwoman of the RNC and fight those fights starting day one?
So right now I'm the chairman of the Republican National Lawyers Association, and I've been a longtime lawyer. I also represent the Republican National Committee in numerous forms of litigation. And so I am one of the most prolific Republican election lawyers in the country. The reality is that states make the laws about elections. And so if a state like California, like some other states, in fact, Florida and Georgia, if they allow either ballot harvesting or early voting, Republicans should not be afraid to utilize those to the fullest extent to win. When we get control of a state legislature, of course, we don't like those laws, we can change them. I'm not nuts about the combination of sloppy voter rolls and ballots being spent out like grocery store shoppers like they do in California. If we had one voter, one ballot, it would be a very different thing. So we need to work on that as a party and as a country. But I think that's a message that Republican leaders have been afraid to use because the base doesn't like it, because there's been a lot of hype about the 2020 election. And of course, there were a lot of irregularities in that election. We have to focus on the future. And so in California, we've been able to use these methods of early voting to elect Republican candidates to Congress. We picked up a seat here in California, and so we perfected it here. Other states have as well. In Florida, they've done a good job with early voting. And in Georgia, Democrats did a good job with early voting. There's no reason Republicans can't do the same and bank our votes early so that we don't have to worry about rain, snow, being in the hospital, or being too busy at work with a meeting to go and vote. And so there are some reforms that we can make. We will not win elections. I'm going to give this to you in writing. We will not win elections again unless we compete with the rules that we have, not the rules we wish we had. And Republican leaders need to stand up and say that clearly, and need to fund it, and need to have energetic people training and doing it. And I think the base is ready for that, the base that wants to win. So no more hopium, no more talk about rigging and stuff. Just do the hard work and get it done.
In our final minute here, whoever is the chair of the RNC going into the next 2 years, you're going to be overseeing a presidential primary race. Do you have any opinion about what the proper role of the RNC will be for that process? And are you concerned that Ronna McDaniel is too closely linked to President Trump to be an objective observer?
Well, I'm not going to cast aspersions on Ronna about that, but what I will say is that it's in the party bylaws that the party needs to be a neutral platform for all candidates. I mean, some could look at me and say, you're one of Donald Trump's lawyers, and make the same accusation about me. I am a lawyer. I'm a fiduciary. I believe that, ethics matter. And I do pledge to members of the RNC to be neutral in that regard. The RNC has to be. And by the way, the members are demanding that. And so some of the members who did not vote for Donald Trump and support them are supporting me. I think they trust me to be a neutral arbiter of that. And many of the members who are the Trumpiest members of the party are also supporting me. So I believe I can be a unity candidate because I'm trusted by both establishment people because of my long role as an effective lawyer, as well as by people who support President Trump because of my role in the Trump campaign and my strong support for him on the floor of the Rules Committee at the 2016 convention, in his 2020 campaign as chairman of Lawyers for Trump and other groups. And so, look, we have to win with a Republican in the White House. And that is my pledge to Republican voters, that I will give it all, leave it all on the field if I am elected. By the way, if I'm not elected, I will still be working to the same goal.
I was going to ask. I sure hope so, because we need you either way. Harmeet Dhillon, thanks for joining us. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight.